From drug mules and narco drones to the Narco Satanists and ghost trains in Mexico, there are a lot of ways that drugs have been smuggled. Now, I am in no way advocating this, but it's interesting. This is an educational video. Watch at your own risk. Persons under the age of 13 should not watch this video. Anyways, okay, let's get into this. Be sure to follow my Instagram, join my Discord, and most importantly, subscribe, because look at this chart, man. Like, come on guys, we can do better than that. And let's get straight into this iceberg. Drug mules. Okay, so this is one of the oldest and most well-known smuggling methods. Like, if you ask ChatGPT to name the top 5 things in a cartel starter kit, this would be number 1. A drug mule is basically someone who smuggles drugs by physically carrying them inside their body. The most common method is swallowing little balloon-like packets that are filled with drugs, commonly cocaine or heroin. These are often latex or plastic-wrapped pellets, and a single person can swallow dozens of them if trained properly. Okay, really quick, another warning. Just because I mentioned the name of a drug does not mean I'm advocating it. This is purely educational and entertainment. Let's get back into it because I really want my best chance of making money off this video, even though it's already a pretty slim chance. The thing is, this method is incredibly dangerous. Even if one pellet bursts inside their stomach, it's basically game over. Instant overdose. That's why people get recruited, often under pressure or desperation, and told to practice swallowing grapes or similar sized objects to get used to it. Some even have to train over time to increase their capacity. There's also the rectal and vaginal smuggling route, which is as uncomfortable as it sounds, but also incredibly hard to detect during basic custom checks. And while body scanners and x-rays have made this method a lot easier to catch, it's still super common because it's cheap, requires no tech, and can fly under the radar, literally. I remember they showed us, my awesome Spanish teacher, shout out him, he showed us this movie about a girl who like did this out of desperation. It was Maria Full of Grace. That shit was awesome. Good movie, but it's scary and sad that it had to even happen at all. Like, great movie because it shows how awful this is. I don't know how people do this. I would start panicking as soon as I even thought about it. Hidden car compartments. This one's a classic, especially at border checkpoints. Cars get modified with secret trap compartments, sometimes in places you'd never think to check. Inside the dashboard, under the seats, behind false gas tanks, inside tires, in the door panels, etc. Some even have electronic mechanisms where the glove box won't open unless you hit a switch and honk at the same time, or something ridiculous like that. Customs agents call these trap cars, and a lot of the time they're regular vehicles that have been tricked out by professionals in like a hidden garage somewhere. There are even these like really cool YouTube videos of border patrol agents bursting open cars with crowbars because the compartments are that well hidden. One famous case I remember was when a dude tried to smuggle drugs inside a secret compartment built into his car's rear bumper. Like, it was rigged with hydraulics and had to be opened a specific way with magnets. That level of engineering for smuggling is like Fast and Furious, but sad and dusty. It's still super effective though, especially when combined with other distractions. Like, maybe they hide a little baggie under the floor mat while the real shipment is inside a welded panel no one's checking unless they tear the car apart. Fake product packaging. Now we're getting into deceptive disguise territory. This is where drugs are hidden inside everyday products that would never raise suspicion. Like coffee beans, shampoo bottles, fruit shipments, even literal piñatas and religious statues. This method works because these things look so normal on the outside that customs officers might not even give them a second glance. But when you cut them open, it's just kilos of powder or pills sitting inside the core of a fake mango. One method that's been used forever is coffee shipments because the strong smell of coffee can throw off drug-sniffing dogs. Cartels have also used liquid cocaine dissolved into wine or shampoo, which is wild because it has to be chemically extracted later. Some drugs are even embedded into plastic or fabric and then processed once they reach their destination. I saw a bust once where they found drugs inside frozen fish, like these traffickers hollowed out a shipment of frozen tuna and stuffed it full of bricks, then resealed the fish like nothing ever happened. It's awesome theoretically. It's cool, I guess, but not that they're hiding drugs. Border tunnels. This is very Looney Tunes in concept, but it's real as hell in practice. There are literal tunnels dug under the US-Mexico border, and they range from crude crawl spaces to full-on underground highways with ventilation systems, lights, rails, and motorized carts. Some tunnels are only used once and then collapsed. Others use permanent structures that take months of planning and engineering. They usually start in inconspicuous places like abandoned buildings or inside a legitimate business, and they come out in warehouses or garages on the other side. Authorities find them every year. Like one tunnel ran 1,500 feet under the border and they found it fully lit with an actual active elevator system built in. Like people are out here speedrunning Minecraft IRL to move bricks of coke. Narco subs. And no, this is not the subreddit for that Netflix show. I don't even know how this is real. Narco subs are semi-submersible or fully submersible watercrafts built by drug dealers to move shipments across the ocean. These aren't your sleek James Bond submarines, they're crudely made, often from fiberglass and homemade parts, but they're low profile enough to evade radar and the Coast Guard. These are used mostly in South America, especially Colombia, to get cocaine over to Mexico or even straight to the US coast. They float just below the surface, making them hard to see from above. A lot of them get abandoned at sea or sunk on purpose if the crew thinks they're about to get caught. Some of them are manned and others are remote controlled or GPS rigged to run autonomously, which is insane. In one case, a narco sub was found carrying over $100 million worth of cocaine, and the guys inside had been at sea for weeks. Like, imagine being stuck in a hot fiberglass tube filled with drugs, salt water, and probably no legroom. That's not even Breaking Bad anymore, that's more like iron lung. Cocaine stuffed suitcases. This is the airport smugglers version of just try the classics. People still show up at customs with hard shell suitcases stuffed with powder or bricks, either in the lining, behind like false panels hidden back there, or vacuum sealed inside of clothing. It's a riskier method now that airports have body scanners, drug dogs, and chemical residue tests, but it's still used because it's fast and doesn't require any high-tech modifications. Some mules combine this with the drug-in-product method, putting the drug inside souvenirs, snacks, or electronics. There are cases of people trying to smuggle coke inside laptops, PlayStation, speakers, and even baby formula cans. Airport security sometimes catches these people based purely on behavior. There's footage of nervous travelers sweating bullets and trying to act casual while carrying 50 pounds of souvenirs in a suitcase that really shouldn't weigh more than 10. It's one of those methods that gets romanticized in like movies and films, but in real life it's usually sloppy and ends in someone getting arrested barefoot in customs holding like a teddy bear stuffed with meth. Okay, that was layer 1. These are the starter pack smuggling methods. Bold but not subtle, dangerous and not really insane. But trust me, layer 2 is where things get creative, disturbing, and way more illegal. Narco drones. So this method started really picking up in the mid-2010s, around the same time consumer drones started becoming widely available. At first, it was basic DJI Phantoms and similar models, modified just enough to carry a few pounds of high-potency drugs such as meth or heroin or fentanyl, since you don't need bulk when the potency is sky high. Cartels quickly realized these drones were hard to detect, nearly silent, and super fast. They could cross the US-Mexico border in just a couple of minutes, drop a payload in a desert or park or even a residential backyard, and then bounce before any patrol could scramble. But the game evolved. Some crews started linking phones to the drones to control them remotely from miles away. Others used GPS-guided autopilot, meaning the drone flies itself using pre-programmed coordinates. That makes the pilot way harder to trace. And these aren't just rogue hobbyists either. In some busts, law enforcement found workshops full of modded drones, extra batteries, payload harnesses, spare parts, all treated like mini war factories. One famous case from 2015 involved a drone that crashed in Tijuana carrying 6.6 pounds of meth. That was a big early sign that drones weren't just toys anymore, they were a new smuggling lane entirely. The reason this works so well is because drones are cheap, easy to replace, and don't risk any lives. If one goes down, it's a minor loss, not an entire crew like getting arrested. You can even fly multiple at once, so even if one gets intercepted, the others still make it through. It's basically the modern version of pigeon smuggling, which yes, that was a real thing as well. And honestly, I should have put that in the iceberg, low-key. Cartel ultralight aircraft. This method is actually older than drones and has been used since at least the 1980s, especially by smugglers moving weed and coke into the US Southwest. Ultralight aircrafts are these tiny, almost comically bare-bones planes. Imagine something between a glider and a powered lawn chair. But here's the thing, they're almost invisible to radar. They fly below radar sweeps, usually under 500 feet, make almost no noise, and have minimal heat signatures. They're the equivalent of riding a bicycle through a surveillance state. Cartels used to fly these across the border, often in total darkness, and drop off packages with parachutes or flares to guide the pickup team. A single drop could contain 50 to 100 pounds of high purity product, and the pilot is back in Mexico before dawn. And it's not just drug drops either, sometimes they send over cash in the other direction since money trails are harder to manage digitally. And because of how quiet they are, most ultralight planes aren't caught until they crash or someone finds the cargo and tracks the flight path backwards. They're not flashy, but they're a ghost method. Just enough tech to work, but just old school enough to fly under the radar. Drug-stuffed leg casts. This one really blew up in the 2000s, but cases stretch back as far as the 1980s. It's the classic fake injury smuggle. A carrier pretends to have a broken leg, arm, or both, shows up to an airport on crutches or in a wheelchair, and the drugs are hidden inside the cast. Usually it's plaster casts or fiberglass models, and inside they'll have kilos of stuff. In some cases, they'll even wrap the drugs around the limb first and then cover it with bandages and cast material so it looks real when x-rayed. And some of these smugglers even go as far as getting fake hospital records, prescription bottles, and x-rays to make it look legit. One bust in 2012 caught a man flying from Bogota to Madrid with 5 kilograms of cocaine molded around its leg bones, all sealed up in a fake cast. Authorities caught on over time, and now you'll see border security actually tapping casts or running scanners over them, but it works occasionally, especially in countries with looser, customs enforcement. Maritime buoys and GPS drops. Okay, this one's a little bit more recent and very smart. Smugglers started using waterproof containers, usually barrels or custom buoy-like pods, packed with drugs, then dropping them out at sea in pre-planned GPS locations. The drop team, often on a fishing boat or low-profile yacht, tosses the package, marks the coordinates, and then someone else, usually in a different boat entirely, picks it up later. Sometimes these floats are tethered underwater to avoid being spotted by drones or helicopters. This system avoids land border detection entirely. You don't need to cross into a checkpoint or fly over radar, you just let the ocean be your smuggling highway. It's especially popular in the Caribbean, the Pacific near Mexico, and the coast of Florida. In 2020, one of the biggest seizures from this method involved a fake buoy that was actually a GPS-controlled subfloat, designed to hover just below water level and broadcast its location every 12 hours. The tech in that thing was wild. But again, it's great because, there's no human arrest. Well, it's great for them, but it's not great to do, okay? It's not great that it happens because it ruins lives. Anyways, underwater tunnels with ventilation. We talked about basic border tunnels before, but this is the next level. These are fully engineered underground structures that go under international borders, often stretching thousands of feet with built-in lights, oxygen supply, and sometimes even electric rail systems. One of the most famous examples was a tunnel discovered in 2020 near San Diego. It was 4 feet tall, 3 feet wide, half a mile long, and had an elevator shaft on the Mexico side and a trapdoor in the warehouse on the US side. These take months or even years to build, and they require serious money, engineers, dig crews, and constant maintenance. Some are used for years, while others get shut down after a few runs. They're often disguised by building legit businesses on both ends, like warehouses, factories, or even car washes. These operations have employees, they pay taxes, and they just happen to have a literal drug highway under the floor. Painted cocaine art. This method sounds fake, but it's very real. The idea is to dissolve cocaine into a chemical mixture and then use it as paint on a canvas or sculpture. Once the art reaches its destination, chemists extract the cocaine back out, often using solvent washes or heat reactive processes. The method first popped up in cases between Colombia and Europe, especially in countries like Spain and Portugal, where customs was expecting body mules or suitcase bricks, but not literal art exhibits. There was a 2018 bust in which multiple abstract paintings arrived at a gallery in Madrid, all painted in thick textured layers that turned out to be 95% pure cocaine compound. It took a week to process and extract. This is the kind of smuggling method you'd expect from someone with like a chemistry degree and an art gallery front, because that's exactly who's doing it. And the thing is, it's borderline undetectable. Unless someone's running spectrometry or chemical analysis on random artwork, it's just modern art to them. And that was layer 2, guys. Layer 3 of this iceberg is where things stop being just about moving physical product and they start getting spiritual. You'll see what I mean. We're gonna start with narco saints and rituals. This one sounds like folklore at first, but it's absolutely real and it plays a huge role in the emotional and spiritual dimension of cartel operations. You've probably heard of Santa Muerte, the so-called narco saint. She's depicted as a Grim Reaper-like figure, often holding a scythe and a globe wrapped in robes, sometimes standing on stacks of cash or scales. She's not technically part of Catholicism, but she has millions of followers, many of whom are involved in criminal activity. Here's how it connects to smuggling. Cartel members regularly perform rituals to Santa Muerte to bless shipments, protect drivers and mules, or to curse rivals. There are altars in stash houses, tunnels, border crossing routes, and even in safe houses where drugs are cooked or sorted. Some altars have blood, cigars, tequila, or bones, or actual bricks of coke laid out as offerings. This isn't just superstition, these rituals serve a psychological and cultural purpose. It creates a loyalty and a fear and a control, especially among new recruits. It's also a way for traffickers to feel protected or invincible even when smuggling across heavily policed zones. And it's not just Santa Muerte either. Some traffickers pray to Jesus Malverde, a Robin Hood-style folk saint seen as a protector of outlaws. Others mix Catholic imagery with cartel mythos. There are even tattoos that act as blessings for specific drug routes or drops. It's kind of interesting. Encrypted WhatsApp and Signal ops. Smuggling at scale in 2024 requires more than muscle. It needs digital infrastructure, and that's where encrypted apps come in. Apps like Signal, WhatsApp, and Telegram are now the backbone of smuggling coordination. Teams use burner phones, temporary SIM cards, or internet cafes and VPNs to communicate securely with borders. Orders are placed, pickups are scheduled, and drops are tracked using code words and encrypted image sharing. Cartels and smugglers don't just text, "Hey, drop the bricks on Main Street." It's stuff like "deliver the shoes to grandma's birthday," or "the ducks are swimming at sunset." And the entire team knows exactly what that means. It's coded logistics on an app that people usually use to text their aunt. Some smuggling rings rotate phones every 48 hours. It's like a joke in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, like how many phones they break, but that shit's real, I guess, you know? Other smuggling rings use digital dead drops where one person sends a message, deletes the app, and another person re-downloads and reads the message through backup keys. Law enforcement has tried intercepting these apps, but it's really a cat and mouse game. Some phones are factory reset remotely, and others are buried, burned, or tossed into rivers. There are even videos of mules snapping their phone SIM card with their teeth mid-chase. Narco accounting books, or La Biblia. This might be the most underrated and secretly terrifying smuggling method, the coded financial structure behind it all. La Biblia is a term that's sometimes used by law enforcement to refer to cartel ledgers, massive books or digital files full of drug weights, street values, bribe payouts, safe house addresses, fake names, shipment dates, and more. These ledgers are written entirely in code, usually filled with symbols, colors, and nicknames, and even references to pop culture, like using Mickey to refer to meth and Goku as a high-ranking boss. But these books are serious accounting tools. We're talking about billions in untraceable revenue, and it has to be tracked somewhere. Cartels aren't just violent, they're logistical experts. I mean, you gotta be intelligent as fuck to do that shit. They balance their income against expenses such as lab chemicals, weapons, driver wages, plane fuel, police bribes, GPS trackers, and food for stash house workers. And yeah, that's a real thing. Some entries literally say shit like $320, tortillas plus fuel plus baby formula, safe house 4. When authorities actually get a hold of one of these ledgers, they can tear apart a whole network, if they can crack it. A single phrase like KFC shipment 14 wings could mean 14 kilos delivered through a route in Kentucky using fried chicken packaging. Or it could mean something completely different. The code changes constantly too. Corrupt border officials, or La Llave. This entry is chilling because it means that sometimes the smuggling doesn't require any sneaking at all. It just walks right through. La Llave, or the key, is cartel slang for a trusted or paid-off border official, could be at customs, TSA, shipping docks, or immigration, or even private contractors who inspect containers. The idea is that the person acts as a key to unlock the route and let product pass. Some keys are coerced, others are offered huge bribes, and some are deeply embedded moles. There have been US Border Patrol agents, airport screeners, and even warehouse forklift drivers caught helping smuggle drugs in exchange for money, protection, or blackmail insurance. In 2021, one officer was caught letting vehicles packed with meth and heroin through a checkpoint he personally manned for over 3 years. The reason he was caught is because another cartel flipped and gave up his name as leverage. The idea here is terrifying because no scanner or drone or dog matters if the person waving you through is already bought. La Llave bypasses the whole system. Cartel-run rehab centers. This is one of the darker and lesser-known smuggling tactics. Cartels operating or infiltrating drug rehab facilities to use them as money laundering fronts, safe houses, or even recruitment hubs. In Mexico and Central America, there have been cases of fake or cartel-affiliated rehab centers where patients are either forced to work for the cartel, or used as drug runners, or pressured into loyalty using recovery, or outright held as labor. These centers usually appear legit on the outside with clean branding, pamphlets, even religious affirmations, but once inside, it's a completely different world. Some function more like cults where group therapy is replaced with cartel indoctrination. In certain cases, people trying to get clean are used to smuggle drugs on their person or inside their belongings, with the promise of reduced debt or graduation from the program. It's really sad, like, really. And that's the end of Layer 3, guys. Let's get into Layer 4 now. This is the point of the iceberg where we stop pretending that anything is normal. These are the smuggling methods that sound made up, like something out of those like dumbest ways to die videos. So let's just get into it. Open a Google tab for fact checking, if you don't believe me, I guess. Cocaine-filled breast implants. Yes, this is real. This method involves people, usually women, but not always, undergoing surgery to implant cocaine packets into their breasts as if they were getting cosmetic enhancements. The drugs are usually sealed in latex or plastic, inserted in place of or alongside real silicone, and stitched up to look like a legit boob job. In 2012, Spanish authorities arrested a 43-year-old Colombian woman at Barcelona El Prat airport. She had just flown in from Bogota with 1.4 kilograms of coke sewn into her breast implants. Police got suspicious after noticing blood and bandages under her clothes. The implants were still fresh and her story wasn't adding up. Once she was searched and medically examined, the smuggling attempt fell apart. That case made headlines, but it's not the only one. Brazilian federal police reported multiple arrests between 2013 and 2015 involving surgically implanted drugs, including in thighs and buttocks, all coming out of Sao Paulo Guarulhos International Airport. It's risky, obviously. These aren't trained medical facilities. These surgeries often happen in cartel-run labs or cheap backroom clinics with dirty instruments. If the implant bursts or leaks, that's not necessarily just a boob job gone wrong, it can turn into a chemical time bomb. Narco zoos and drug-stuffed animals. Cartels don't just love animals, they use them. And this entry is kind of weird in two ways. Number one, narco zoos exist. And number two, animals have been used as unwilling drug mules. Okay, so starting with the zoos. Some high-ranking traffickers collect exotic animals the way normal people collect Funko Pops. The most famous case was Pablo Escobar, who imported elephants, zebras, camels, and hippos to his Hacienda Nápoles estate. When he died, the zoo collapsed, and now Colombia has a wild hippo problem because the animal's bred in the wild. But it gets darker. In 2006, Colombian police raided a small private zoo run by cartel members and found that animals were being used to hide drugs. This included snakes with heroin-filled condoms sewn into them and puppies surgically implanted with liquid drugs for transport. Yes, puppies. In 2005, DEA agents in Colombia discovered 10 Labrador puppies with liquid heroin packets surgically implanted into their abdomens. The plan was to fly them to the US under the guise of being show dogs. Not all the dogs survived the operation, though. That's so sad, man. The man behind that operation was Andres Lopez Elorza, a Venezuelan vet turned drug trafficker. He was extradited to the US in 2018 and faced charges related to using animals as couriers. Fake ambulances. Imagine you're at a border checkpoint and an ambulance pulls up, lights flashing, siren blaring. Are you really gonna stop it for inspection? That's exactly what smugglers bank on. Using fake or cartel-modified ambulances is a surprisingly effective smuggling tactic. These vehicles pass through checkpoints by posing as emergency transports, often with fake patients inside and a whole performance going on. In 2019, Spanish National Police busted a drug ring operating fake ambulances between Morocco and Spain. The ambulance had oxygen tanks filled with hash, and actors played the roles of medics and patients. They'd even fake medical records. And in Mexico, this tactic is widespread. Cartels use actual stolen ambulances or buy cheap vans and repaint them with official-looking decals. In one 2020 bust, Mexican Marines seized a fake Red Cross ambulance that had over 80 kilograms of meth and fentanyl hidden inside. Sometimes there's an actual patient. The drugs might be hidden under the stretcher or sewn into the bedding. One operation in Tijuana involved a wheelchair patient who needed to be transported to a US hospital, except the back of the chair was packed with heroin. Drug mules used unknowingly. This one is terrifying because you don't even have to be in on it to get arrested. Cartels develop smuggling methods where innocent people are used as unknowing mules, either by tampering with their luggage or giving them, quote, gifts that secretly contain drugs. There are dozens of real cases, but one of the most infamous happened in 2008 involving Australian women Nicole Kidman, not the actress, but the same name, and Melanie Brown, who were tricked into carrying cocaine through Buenos Aires. They were told they were helping deliver documents and souvenirs for a modeling agency, but when police opened their bags, they found 6 kilograms of pure coke hidden in the lining. Another common tactic is the switch bag scam. Someone at the airport swaps your clean luggage with a nearly identical suitcase packed with contraband. By the time that you're boarding, you're carrying drugs you never agreed to move. Airline employees have also been involved. In 2017, US Customs caught a baggage handler at LAX who helped swap bags mid-transfer so unknowing tourists would smuggle drugs. So if you ever get a free suitcase or any last-minute gift to deliver internationally, just don't do it. Narco subs built from scratch in jungle labs. We talked about narco subs before, but now we're deep into the DIY submarine era. These aren't purchased vessels or retooled fishing boats. These are custom-built submarines made entirely in the jungle by hand using fiberglass, scavenged parts, and engineering that somehow works. Oh, also, guys, I don't know if you can tell, but halfway through this, I recorded the first half on one day, and then I went on vacation, and I caught like some kind of a bug there, and I came back with like a really bad like sore throat. And this is a few days later. I don't know if you can tell that my voice is like worse and different. I hope it's not that noticeable, but anyway. In 2020, Colombian authorities found a fully submersible narco sub in the dense rainforest of the Nariño department. It was 82 feet long, powered by 2 diesel engines, and had the capacity to carry up to 6 tons of coke across the Pacific. It was camouflaged with green paint, and the hatch was covered in tree branches. These subs are usually built by teams of 20 to 30 workers in rotating shifts. Construction takes 3 to 6 months, and most workers are paid in cash or in drugs. The jungle hides noise and movement, and the sub is then transported via rivers to launch points. And the engineering, it's really no joke. They use ballast systems, satellite guidance, radio silence technology, and in some cases, the sub will self-scuttle or sink itself if detected. One DEA agent compared finding a narco sub to, quote, catching a whale with tweezers. That same year, the US Coast Guard intercepted a semi-submersible off the coast of Ecuador carrying over 12,000 pounds of coke, worth roughly, holy fuck, $165 million. That's not a boat, dude. That's like a fucking vacation. Am I right, guys? I'm kidding. It's a joke. Cartel-controlled shipping ports. This is arguably one of the most powerful tools in modern drug trafficking. Entire shipping ports infiltrated or controlled by cartels. The best example is Puerto Cortes in Honduras, one of the largest ports in Central America. For years, it was a known trafficking hub for Los Cachiros, a powerful Honduran cartel. They used port officials, crane operators, and customs workers to ensure containers full of drugs were waved through without inspection. Another infamous case is the Manzanillo port in Mexico, which became a critical hub for the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG. Authorities discovered that hundreds of containers arriving from Colombia and leaving for Europe were laced with coke, hidden behind layers of legitimate goods like avocados or tires. And it's not just smuggling drugs out. These ports are also used to import precursors for meth and fentanyl from China, which are then sent to rural labs to be processed. Controlling a port is like owning a key to the global market. It's no longer smuggling, it's logistics on like a corporate scale. Alright guys, and congratulations, you made it past layer 4. Let's get into layer 5 of this awesome but bad iceberg, because these are bad things that you shouldn't look up to at all, and this is educational and it's a documentary type video, so I still get ads. Hell yeah. This is where things go from deeply real to so real it feels fake. Some of these methods and stories are documented and others are unsolved cases or folklore. So yeah, we're at the bottom now. Reality is starting to warp a little. Let's get into layer 5. Coke submarines lost at sea with full crews. We already talked about narco submarines, handmade semi-submersibles made in jungle labs, but tier 5 is about the ones that never made it. These vessels are often unlicensed, untracked, and deliberately destroyed or scuttled if something goes wrong. Over the years, multiple narco subs have disappeared entirely, sometimes with 3 to 5 crew members on board and tons of product, usually coke, never recovered. There's no official number, but the Colombian Navy has admitted that for every sub intercepted, as many as 2 or 3 go undetected. And when one goes down, it often happens in open ocean, far from radar, patrols, or even cell signal. One of the eeriest cases was in 2019 when Ecuadorian authorities received a distress signal from a suspected narco sub in the Pacific. By the time they reached the coordinates, all they found was a life vest and an oil slick. No sub, no bodies, no coke, just ocean silence. And the creepiest part, in some narco circles there are stories of ghost crews, subs that went missing and are still drifting somewhere, fully intact with dead men and coke locked inside, like deep sea tombs of failed missions sealed up tight. The Narco Satanists. Okay, this one sounds like a horror movie, but it's backed by real murder cases and investigations. Some cartel groups, especially fringe or breakaway cells, are heavily involved in ritual sacrifice, black magic, and occultism. The most infamous example is Adolfo Constanzo, the leader of a cult known as Los Narco Satanicos. In the late 1980s, he operated between Mexico and the US using a form of palo mayombe mixed with cartel superstition to allegedly protect his drug shipments. Constanzo and his followers believed that by sacrificing humans, including rival dealers and innocent victims, that would make them invisible to police. They tortured and killed at least 15 confirmed victims in a ranch near Matamoros, including Mark Kilroy, an American student whose spine and brain were found in a ritual cauldron. Oh my god. They were caught in 1989 when one of their members led police to the site. Constanzo was killed in the shootout. His cult believed he had the power to predict DEA raids. To this day, cartel-related shrines, animal sacrifice, and whispered rumors of more ritual killings still surface in police raids. Whether it's spiritual belief, psychological control, or a twisted morale booster, the Narco Satanist label didn't die with Constanzo. Body mules surgically implanted and left to die. You've heard of drug mules swallowing balloons or people getting breast implants, but this goes way beyond that. In the darkest corners of trafficking, there are documented and rumored cases of people being abducted, drugged, and surgically implanted with sealed packets of coke, heroin, or meth, and then sent across borders with no intention of keeping them alive. In 2013, Spanish authorities intercepted a Nigerian man at Madrid airport whose stomach contained over 1 kilogram of coke in pellet form. This is common, but in this case, the man had no passport, no explanation, and seemed completely unaware of what had been done to him. He later died from internal bleeding. Even darker are rumors of traffickers using migrant women or unhoused people, implanting drugs inside them, literally sewn into their body cavities, and then abandoning them. Some are told they'll be paid after the delivery, and others are just dumped in public spaces, the drugs retrieved after they, aren't with us anymore. Medical examiners in some border states have documented autopsies of bodies found with surgically implanted contraband, with no record of any hospital performing the procedure. No consent, no money, just body disposal as part of a supply chain management. Ghost trains in Mexico. This is one of the weirdest smuggling legends. aliens. Allegedly, there are unmanned trains, freight cars that run along old or remote tracks across northern Mexico that are loaded with drugs timed perfectly to pass through checkpoints or reach key junctions and then get offloaded by crews down the line. These are sometimes referred to as ghost trains because no one is seen loading or riding them, and the rail companies deny involvement. Some claim they're manipulated using automated signal hacks or inside contacts. Others say they're just freight schedules exploited by cartels who know when a car is forgotten or unmonitored. Journalist Ion Grillo has written about train-based trafficking in his investigations into the Sinaloa and Juarez cartels, and Mexican rail operators like Ferromex have confirmed that entire cars filled with narcotics have been found mid-journey without a single crew member. In some cases, containers are switched at rural stops using lookouts, motorcycles, and remote loading arms. Others describe full cars moving across borders under the radar of inspectors only to vanish or be emptied before reaching their final destination. Whether it's hacking, bribery, or logistical black magic, these trains feel like smuggling ghosts in the machine. Narco Coridos with hidden codes. If you've ever heard a Narco Corido, you know it sounds like your average Mexico folk ballad. Accordion, acoustic guitar, and dramatic lyrics. But sometimes, those lyrics contain coded messages that go beyond the normal. Narco Coridos are songs that tell the stories of traffickers, and in some cases they've been used to signal real-time drops, warn rivals, or issue death threats. One famous example is a 2011 song by Banda El Recodo that allegedly predicted the arrest of Edgar Valdez Villarreal, or La Barbie, a high-ranking trafficker. Analysts confirmed the lyrics lined up with his location and movements. In other cases, rival cartels have dropped diss tracks with embedded details about territories, upcoming moves, or coded references to specific drop points. The idea is that only insiders would understand, but the message still circulates publicly like a musical darknet post. There are even radio DJs who have been assassinated for refusing to play certain narco corridos or for playing rival cartel songs. It's fucked up, dude. The invisible route. This one's narco folklore, but the story goes that there is a smuggling route so clean, so perfect, so secret that not a single shipment along it has ever been intercepted. It's sometimes referred to as La Ruta Fantasma or El Camino del Diablo, depending on who's telling the story. Some say it's an air route involving unregistered planes and fake call signs. Others say it's a deep Pacific drop system where containers are left at sea for pickup by disguised fishing boats. One theory claims it runs through indigenous territory in northern Mexico where cartels have made peace pacts with local groups and law enforcement won't go. Others swear it's buried beneath an active legitimate trade route using duplicated shipping manifests and hacked customs records. It's never been proven, but multiple cartel informants have mentioned, quote, a route you only hear about once, used for VIP level product that absolutely cannot get caught. And if the stories are true, this invisible route is the holy grail of drug smuggling. Totally invisible, absurdly profitable, and maybe even protected from both sides of the law. But no one really knows exactly what it is or why. Alright, and that was Layer 5, guys. Welcome to Layer 6, the end of the line. This tier is conspiratorial, highly secretive, and largely unverifiable, but it's all real things that are rumors, or some of them are facts. But you'll see, let's just get into this. The deep sea pipeline theory. So there's a long-standing theory in narco-conspiracy circles that a literal underwater drug pipeline exists between Colombia and the Gulf of Mexico. And yeah, I'm calling it the Gulf of Mexico, dude, okay? Fuck Trump, bro. Should I put that in, dude? I think I can say that, right? Can I? Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. I'm not calling it the Gulf of America, bro. Anyways, this pipeline maybe even leads into international waters near US territories. It's like an oil pipeline, but instead of crude, it moves coke. The deep sea pipeline is said to be a multi-billion-dollar engineering project built in sections, mostly inactive unless activated for a high-priority drop. It would allow drugs to move silently across hundreds of miles without detection, bypassing borders, patrols, radar, everything. Now, no country has ever confirmed that this pipeline exists, but some pieces do make people wonder. In 2012, Colombian Navy divers found long stretches of reinforced tubing off the coast of Nariño, which they assumed was waste or oil related until they realized that it had sealed compartments with plastic linings and traces of coke residue. But it was never traced to a legit operation. There's also the fact that drug subs are frequently launched from the same region, and that cartel engineers are known to have ex-military, ex-petrochemical engineers on payroll. The theory says the pipeline was used once or twice for high-level VIP shipments, then abandoned or left dormant. It's become one of those narco myths, like a legendary smuggling route no one can prove but every old-school trafficker claims to have heard about from someone who knew. CIA drug trade entanglement. This one's less myth and more like a conspiracy that actually got exposed, just never really punished. We're talking about the CIA's known involvement in enabling drug traffickers during Cold War operations, most famously through Iran-Contra. Back in the 1980s, under Reagan, the CIA secretly facilitated arms sales to Iran, then used that money to fund Nicaraguan rebel groups called the Contras. But it gets darker. Journalist Gary Webb, RIP, reported in his 1996 Dark Alliance series that the Contras were deeply involved in cocaine trafficking, and that the CIA either looked the other way or directly allowed drug routes into Los Angeles to protect their anti-communist allies. This wasn't some fringe theory. Web sources included former DEA agents, federal memos, and court docs. His claims got him blacklisted, dragged through the media, and eventually dead from 2 gunshots to the head, ruled a suicide officially. Even the CIA's own 1998 Inspector General report admitted that the agency was aware of Contra involvement in drug trafficking and didn't stop it. So when people say the CIA might still be entangled in certain modern narco networks, especially in unstable regions or strategic zones like Venezuela, Honduras, or part of Mexico, they're not pulling that out of nowhere. The receipts might be redacted, but the pattern has precedent. Cartel cloning programs for soldiers. Alright, this one is full tinfoil hat, but it's been whispered in narco creep threads and conspiracy forums for years. The idea that certain cartels have secret breeding or cloning programs to raise elite sicarios or hitmen from birth. This doesn't mean literal gene splice clones in lab tubes, although some theories do go there. The more grounded version is that children are taken at birth or from orphanages, raised in isolated compounds, and trained from infancy to become loyal inhuman killers. Kinda like Homelander, I guess, dude, right? The Zetas were rumored to have something like this at their height. Founded by ex-military, they reportedly abducted children or took the sons of killed rivals and raised them inside militarized camps. No IDs, no outside contact, total loyalty to the cartel. One 2014 report from Nuevo Leon police described a compound raid where boys as young as 8 were found training with AKs and grenade launchers. No parent, just armed guards, military manuals, and punishment routines. And yes, there are unsourced claims of artificial insemination programs in private clinics tied to money laundering. It's often dismissed as fanfic or narco creepypasta, but with how deep some cartel networks go into biotech, private security, and trafficking, you really can't rule out something dark and systemic behind the scenes. Cartel snuff films traded for info leverage. This is a heavy one. So it's known that cartels often record executions as warnings. Those videos get passed around on encrypted apps like Telegram, WhatsApp, and old school CD or DVD handouts. But there are rumors that some videos go even darker. Snuff traditionally refers to videos of real people being unalived on camera for entertainment or trade value. Authorities have found phones and USBs in raid houses with videos so graphic they've never been released to the public, often showing torture, stage scenarios, or ritual killings. But the disturbing twist is that some cartel insiders claim these tapes are traded like blackmail chips, not for money but for leverage over rivals or corrupt officials. Kinda like, we know your guy did this, here's the footage, so do what we say. In one 2018 federal investigation. In Miko Akan, agents recovered video files labeled with initials and timestamps linked to disappearances that were never solved. No one's ever confirmed if it was Snuff by definition, but the implication was clear. These weren't warnings, they were recorded proof of compliance or betrayal. The Red List. This is one of the more believable legends because it just makes sense. The Red List is an alleged master document held by top-level cartel leaders containing the names, nicknames, or digital fingerprints of informants, rats, snitches, and traitors. Every time someone flips for a deal, leaks info, or even gets suspected of working with DEA or military, their name goes in the list. Some versions of the legend say the list is passed between bosses, and others say it's maintained digitally and accessed by trusted IT operatives. In 2021, during the arrest of a mid-level CJNG lieutenant, police sieged a laptop with over 700 names and aliases, grouped by region and cartel affiliation. Several of those names matched missing persons and recent executions. Whether that's the Red List or just a Red List is unclear, but the idea that cartels keep running databases of enemies and leaks is really not that wild when you remember that they also run full logistics networks, GPS drone operations, and corporate fronts. The fear around the Red List is that once you're on it, you don't get off. Even if you disappear, even if you hide, the list survives you. Shipment X. This is the last one. This is a cartel campfire horror story tier. Shipment X is supposedly a massive drug shipment, some say the biggest in narco history, that vanished completely. No trace, no radio contact, no sub, no crew, no signal flare. Versions differ. Some say it was a deep-sea sub carrying 15 plus tons of coke. Others say it was an aerial drop into the Pacific using military planes disguised as commercial flights. The story always ends the same. Gone. Completely. No arrests, no bust, no recovery. Just silence. Some say the crew ran, others say a rival cartel intercepted it. The creepy version says the shipment was cursed, it was blessed by a rogue bruja, and then every person involved in it died in weird, violent, or unexplained ways. There's no hard evidence that Shipment X ever existed, but cartel circles, especially older traffickers, treat it like a ghost story based on something real. That was Layer 6, guys, and now it looks like we are done. I hope you enjoyed this Iceberg, guys. I'm hoping and praying that I'm gonna get monetized for this video, because this was super fun to make and it took a lot of research. And I hope you enjoyed learning about this interesting stuff, but don't do any drugs and don't sell drugs, okay guys? Please, please! Have a great night, everyone. Sweet dreams.